Hey there, Carnage Cravers. Welcome back to Carnage Corner. I am Ken Carnage, and we're going to do something we haven't done in a dog's age. We are actually going to do a film review. That's right. I'm tentatively walking my way back into the waters of Hollywood film because I love film. I took a break from it because everybody in Hollywood seemed to have lost their minds. But I'm willing to dip my toes in and see how the water feels. So the first film I've seen, been to the theater to see in a long while, was the Justice League. Because, come on, we've been waiting how long for a Justice League film? And, like, am I really not going to go see it? Seriously. So, went to see Justice League. Justice League, of course, starring Ben Affleck as Batman, Henry Cavill as Superman, Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, Jason Momoa as Aquaman, Ezra Miller as The Flash, and Ray Fisher as Cyborg. So, I'm going to actually just break that down for a minute, talk about Ben Affleck for a moment. Full disclosure, I've never really been a Ben Affleck fan. The only film of his I ever really liked was Armageddon, and me liking it had nothing to do with him. Until he made Daredevil. Now, Daredevil admittedly had its problems. I don't really think Ben Affleck was one of the problems, though. Daredevil had a lot of problems, but I don't really think Ben was one of them. That being said, when they first announced the casting of Ben Affleck as Batman a year before we got Batman v Superman, I was one of those guys on the internet going, "No!" doing my best horrible Darth Vader. But I calmed down. I was still worried. I was still scared, but if you watch the earliest episodes of this show, you will remember me saying, "God, I hope I'm wrong. God, I hope I'm wrong." And then Batman v Superman came out, and it was a damn mess. It really was a mess. But it was a mess that I did enjoy to an extent. But Ben Affleck, again, Batman v Superman had its problems. Ben Affleck wasn't a problem. I enjoyed Ben Affleck's Batman. Very much, actually. A lot more than I thought I was going to. And so then, of course, he popped up in for a cup of coffee in Suicide Squad, which was nice. It made the world feel inclusive. But then, of course, now we get to Justice League. Now, given what had happened during Batman v Superman, I did expect Batman to be a little different, and indeed he was. Not quite as, he has some regret over what he did, how he behaved, and what happened. Now, whether or not that regret is founded, I'm reserving judgment there. I will always say this. Batman's not wrong in his assessment that the greatest potential threat to our planet is Superman. It's an absolute fact. The greatest potential threat to our planet is Superman because he's the strongest being on our planet. Now, does that mean Superman necessarily needs to die? No, because Superman, by and large, usually does the right thing. Do I blame Batman for having a backup plan? You bet your ass I don't. That when you walk into a nuclear war and all you've got is a few boomerangs and switchblades, you bet your ass you need to have something up your sleeve. So it's so they kind of bitched Batman up a little bit, just a little bit. They played up the idea that Bruce is older, played up the idea that he's been doing this for 20 years, and that, and he's beat up. But all in all, they still managed to make Batman Batman. It's not the Batman that you might be used to seeing as far as, you know, when Batman is young. Right now we're talking about Batman who is getting to that point where he's going to rely less and less on his body and more on his mind, because unfortunately that's what we regular people end up doing as we get older, as we rely less on our body and more on our mind, because guess what, folks? The body's got an expiration date. So we just don't know when it is. So in either case, Ben Affleck did a great job. I enjoyed it. Talk about Henry Cavill as Superman. You know, not for nothing, I'm not a Superman fan, but I have always liked Henry Cavill's portrayal of Superman. You know, you take away some of that camp and goofiness that, you know, came with the Christopher Reeve Superman. And I'm not putting down the Christopher Reeve Superman, because it was great. It was of a different time. Henry Cavill's Superman fits today. And it fits today very well. And he had some great moments. The scene, oh, full spoiler alerts, just so you know, the scene where he, you know, right after he's resurrected, where he ends up having to face off with the members of the Justice League, and they give you an idea of just how powerful Superman is. I mean, they went full God mod with him. I mean, he is restraining Aquaman, Wonder Woman, and Cyborg, and still having the wherewithal to move fast enough to see Flash. I mean, and the exchange between Batman and Superman, the very first exchange between them, says a lot, because, you know, you can feel the frustration on Superman's part. You know, when he grabs Batman by the throat and tells him, you won't let me live, and you won't let me die. You know, and I can understand a little bit of frustration on Superman's part, but also he's disorientated. You know, you just got you just got forcibly shoved back into this world after spending a lot of time in a wooden box. It's bound to be disorientating, and I have no preface for comparison, but I'm assuming it's bound to be disorientating. So, moving on from there, the Gal Gadot. Wow. Another person who, before Batman v Superman, I was so worried. I did not want Gal Gadot playing Wonder Woman at all. I was so freaking worried about that. And then Batman v Superman came out, and they didn't give her a whole lot to do. They just made her look awesome. She handled the physicality very well. They didn't give her a lot of lines, and she did well in that respect. And I will say this much, because I've seen Wonder Woman as well, and Gal Gadot busted her ass in the acting department, because when it became time for when I saw Wonder Woman, I was very, very, very happy, because after Batman v Superman, I said I worry for Wonder Woman. Gal Gadot may surprise me. She did for Batman v Superman. She may surprise me for Wonder Woman, but I still have reservations. Reservations erased. Okay, completely erased. And she did more of the same in Justice League. She was very good in Justice League. They played up the tension between her and Batman very, very well. You know, and was very, very well done on the part as far as Wonder Woman is concerned. So from there we get we'll go into Jason Momoa's Aquaman. Wow. Let me tell you something. Aquaman is not is not what super friends made him out to be any more. They went with a young Aquaman for obvious reasons. you know, because he's not the king of Atlantis. He's, you know, he's kind of an outsider stuck between worlds because he's half Atlantean and half human. And so it was a very, you got to get a feel for him. Now, Jason Momoa, I never really doubted Jason Momoa's ability to play this role and to make this role badass. I mean, you're looking at a lot of the work Jason Momoa has done, stuff like Game of Thrones, stuff like Frontier, I think it's called. You know, and the movies that he's done, Jason Momoa plays badass really well. And he brought it to Aquaman, but he also brought a sense of humor, one that they didn't overdo like they do in Marvel films. You know, Aquaman's a little sarcastic, a little bit of that dry sarcasticness, where, you know, it sounds like he might be kidding, but the secret to that is he's not. He means what he says. You know, Aquaman gives Batman a run for his money for being the biggest asshole in the room, and I loved him for it. He was fantastic, you know, and it was just, again, very, very well done. I know I keep saying that, but it's true. Ezra Miller as the Flash. I was so worried about this, but not because I don't think Ezra's a good actor. I've never seen anything with Ezra in it that I'm aware of. I didn't know his name before this. The thing with them doing a Flash is they have a Flash TV show with Grant Gustinson, and he's doing very well. That Flash TV show is very, very well received. It has tons and tons of fans, and they are, you know, they didn't even, like, they went Barry Allen Flash. They didn't try and explain it away by going a different Flash or anything like that. No, Barry Allen. And so I was worried about how it might be received, and I was worried about how he might do. Again, very pleasantly surprised. He really did capture, you know, especially bearing in mind the fact that, again, Barry is young. Okay, he's very, very young. You know, so it's like, you know, he's still got some of that adolescent awkwardness to him, which is really good. And the fact that he doesn't have confidence, the fact that Barry's never actually been in a fight, and he says as much. You know, he says, "I've never done battle. I've just pushed people out of the way and run really fast." You know, and again, we get to see in that particular scene, we actually get to see Batman doing what he does best. And what Batman does best, believe it or not, is not fight crime. What Batman does best is bring the best out of people. Batman is the seminal leader in the DC cinematic universe, not because he has the most power or is the strongest or the best or anything like that, but because he is strategic and intelligent enough to where he knows how to use everybody. He may not have the abilities himself, but if he knows what you can do, he knows what you should do and where to put you in the whole grand scheme of things. That's why, you know, it's funny. If you go and you look through Justice League, a lot of people argue, well, Superman's the leader of the Justice League. All right, fine. Maybe he is. Maybe. But you'll notice something. Whenever they're in battle, Batman calls the shots. There's a reason for it. Okay, he is the greatest strategic mind in the DC cinematic world. And it was really great, the exchange between Batman and Flash in that particular instance, where Batman telling Barry exactly what Barry needed to do and what he needed to hear in order for him to do what he needed to do. So very, very good. The last thing I'm going to get into is, as far as individual characters, Ray Fisher playing Cyborg. I do not know Ray Fisher. I was not familiar with his work whatsoever. Full disclosure, I hate the character of Cyborg. In the comics, in the old Teen Titans show, I've never liked Cyborg. He's annoying. He's arrogant. I never could stand the guy. I enjoyed Cyborg in this film. I really, really enjoyed Cyborg in this film. You took away that adolescent BS for the most part. Okay? Made him a little more serious. And just the way they used him, his whole demeanor, they played up a little bit of, the young guys between him and Barry, but they didn't overdo it. They let Barry stay the proverbial child on the team, and they gave Cyborg a more stoic type of demeanor, more serious, which is good. And that's not to say that he can't have his little one-liners. He said "booyah" at the end of the battle, and that's great. That's fine. That's like a signature for him. But playing him more like an adult rather than a young teen, I liked. I liked it a lot. I liked that there was not a wisecrack or a joke every 2 seconds in this film. They didn't do what Marvel does and try and do a stand-up comedy routine. I loved that. Fantastic. So this film was actually made for an estimated $300 million. That's a hell of a freaking budget on a film, let me tell you. And this is a good news, bad news situation. Good news is the film was good. The bad news is not that many people know that because nobody's going to see it. This film on a $300 million budget, okay, and you guys, if you've heard me talk before, you know how it works. If they have spent $300 million on the budget, they probably spent $100 to $150 million on the advertising. So that means they need to make at least $450 million in order to break even. Oh wait, no, hang on, because the theaters keep a third of that. So if they make $300 million, a third, that's going to be $100 million. So knock that back down. So they've only made $350 million. They need 350. They need $550 million in revenue in order to break even. That's not even getting them into the black. That's not even getting them making money. They need $550 million to break even. To date, okay, the film's been out for at least a week now. Might be 2. To date, Justice League has made worldwide $569,201,025. So, based off the math that we just talked about before, that means that this film has only brought in $19 million in profit. That's not good, guys. That's not good at all. It's still got time to make money, but let's be honest. Opening weekends when films make their money. It's not good. It's not good at all. And what sucks is the film was good. The film's real good. It really is. If you like the DC comics, I would encourage you to go see this film. It was damn good. But it's not making money. And there's a very good chance that DC, being as reactionary as they are, because they're not proactive, they're reactive. They always have been, and I think they always will be. That being said, I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I don't know what they're going to can. I don't know who they're going to can. but I know this much: they're going to jockey something around, they're going to shuffle something around, because this is not what they wanted. So, well, but let's go to a happier note. You know how I do this. I do, the good, the bad, and the ugly. That's how I do things. So, I want to talk about what was good. I talked about this already. Really, the characters. What the faithfulness to the characters. They really did capture the essence of these characters, and the character interaction. Great. Another good thing was the flow, the pace. This movie flowed. I mean, this movie flowed like fantastic. This was not clunky. It didn't drag. This flowed like you took laxative after Thanksgiving dinner. I mean, just so that's a horrible analogy. God. The flow, the pace, it was good. It was fun. You didn't feel like you were sitting there forever. It just one thing into the other, into the other, into the other, and it all made sense. And it flowed very, very, very well. And the last thing that I'll talk about as far as good goes is the banter. Now, I like me some banter. I really do. But like, Marvel has gotten to the point where they overdo that banter. If you go back to Age of Ultron, in the big fight where they're fighting all the robots, you have the two characters who are most likely to die. Okay? Two characters who are most likely to die. The two idiots with no superpowers whatsoever, Black Widow and Hawkeye. Hawkeye doesn't even have a friggin' gun. The guy's out there playing Robin Hood with a bow and goddamn arrow against killer robots. Okay? And what is he doing? They're driving through the battle in a freaking convertible, and he's discussing with Black Widow what additions he should do on his house. Answer me something. If the guy most likely to die isn't taking that battle seriously, if he isn't taking the threat seriously, why the hell should I? Seriously? Okay, and that's the point Marvel's gotten to. Marvel's gotten to the point where they've got Thor dropping one-liners. Okay, that's not in Thor's character. So, that being said, Justice League really did well with the banter. Got some banter that went on between Batman and Aquaman, and here's the thing. I mean, looking at it from a psychological, a psych standpoint, first off, Aquaman is much younger than Bruce is. Aquaman is younger than Batman. Batman, his presence does tend to command a certain amount of respect, but so does Aquaman's. Aquaman breaking Batman's balls the way he does is kind of like him just testing the waters, testing Bruce. It's something, every guy who's watching this is like, yep. It's something that, for whatever reason, men will often do is, test somebody. How seriously do you take yourself? How tightly are you wound? Can you take a little bit of ball breaking? And that's what that was. Aquaman is feeling Batman out. And Batman is doing that as well to a certain degree, with, lines like, "So I hear you can talk to fish." But, it's the repeated jabs of, dressed like a bat, of Aquaman taking shots at Batman. "You're dressed like a bat." And, and he annoys Batman to a degree, but this isn't Batman's first rodeo. Batman's worked with partners before. And, so Batman gives back as good as he gets. I personally loved the exchange of Aquaman saying, "You really are crazy, aren't you?" And Batman saying, "I'm not the one who brought a pitchfork." So it's, but these are, the way they're done, they fit. It doesn't take you out. It makes sense. So unlike a lot of the banter that they do in some Marvel films. Now, I like Marvel films. Don't think I'm shitting on Marvel, because I'm not. I like Marvel films, but some of them are much better than others. I will say my favorite Marvel film is probably still Winter Soldier. Well, Civil War was good, aside from a couple of parts, but Winter Soldier is probably still my favorite. So, bearing that in mind, again, but the funny thing is the best banter in Justice League, the best funny situation, and it's funny because of the levity that came after the seriousness. Two characters I don't even like, Superman and Cyborg, had me in stitches, in a good way. Because when they're gonna pull the mother box apart, and Superman's got to help them, and Superman's all like, and you think we can survive this or whatnot, and Cyborg is like, I hope. And Superman goes, in all seriousness, Superman's like, me too. I like being alive. And they get it apart and they get blown away. And, and then Superman, and it's funny because it's Superman. This guy's not supposed to feel a damn thing. And he's like, I take it back. I want to die. And then Cyborg talks about his toes hurting. And it's funny because he doesn't even friggin' have toes. It's just a really, really good exchange. But the reason they're laughing the way they are is it's the relief of the fact that they were able to stop the mother boxes from terraforming the earth, and so when you have those situations where everything is dire, and then all of a sudden you're successful. The idea of somebody as a way of like releasing their stress and their tension, the idea of somebody laughing or even crying in that situation is not crazy, because it's sensory overload, and you've been holding everything back because you've been so focused on what you have to do that. And then it all comes out. So I really, really liked that. It was very good. The banter was good because they didn't do too much of it. They placed it well, and placing banter well into an action film is not an easy thing to do. There's like an art form to it. There really is. And so if you're not somebody who kibitzes a lot, you may not have a knack for it. Part of the reasons why I appreciate good banter so much is because it's such a big part of my life. I have tons of siblings and cousins, many of us very close in age. Ball breaking was probably, forget English. Ball breaking's our first language. So, banter, realistic banter for the situation is always going to be something I critique, because to me it's very important. So moving on, let's talk about the bad. Let's go ahead and talk about the bad. So the first bad thing I'm going to talk about is the after credit scene. Not the one of them Flash and Superman racing. I'm talking about the one that's actually after the credits, where Deathstroke goes onto Lex Luthor's yacht and talks to Lex Luthor, and Lex is all like, maybe we should make a league of our own. Well, what's that? I was waiting for Deathstroke to look at him and be like, there's no crying in villainy. Fucking stupid shit. I was not overly impressed with this scene. It was kind of bleh. I don't know what the hell they're doing as far as Justice League 2 goes. I had assumed Justice League 2 would be Darkseid. Maybe they're going to hold off on Darkseid. Maybe they're going to do Crisis at some point. I don't know, especially not with the way the money situation is going for this film. I just simply don't know. But the after credit scene was bad. Another bad thing, now that I'm not being objective when I say that this was bad, because I really, really really wanted to see this in some way, shape, or form or fashion. I wanted to see Nightwing. Nightwing is my favorite character. I really, really wanted to see in some way, shape, or fashion the Dick Grayson character. Just in any facet. I didn't need to see him in action. Just knowing his existence would have been good enough. Because I wanted them to bring Dick in. I wanted you want to explain how he hasn't been around? Easy. Him and Bruce had a complete and total falling out after Jason's death. I mean, it's easy enough to write. So I really wanted to see that. They didn't do it. So maybe they didn't do it because they've got the Titans TV show that's going to be coming out. I don't know. I'm nervous about that show as well. I'm very nervous. I just simply don't know. But yeah, so I was bummed about that. And The Ugly. Well, I've actually already talked about this quite a bit. The Ugly for this film is nothing that was actually in the film. It's the Prophet. Oh dear God, this movie is bombing. This movie's bringing, on the balance of scale, this movie's bringing in less money than Bad Moms Christmas. That's fucking sad. Pardon my language, I'm sorry, but that is fucking sad. So yeah, The Ugly for this is definitely The Prophet. And what makes matters worse is if it was a bad movie, I'd understand, but it's not a bad movie. Guys, I'm not even kidding you. I'll give this a 9 out of 10. It was good. It was good. Better than Batman v Superman. I don't know if I'll say it was better than, I don't know if I'll say it was better than Avengers, the first one. I don't know if I'll say that. I'll say it was on par with Avengers, the first one. I don't know. I do give this 9 out of 10. This was a great film. Rewatchability like you'd not believe. Just very, very good. And it does suck that it's not making its money. And I promise you DC will do something reactionary. But that's it, guys. If you have not seen Justice League, get out there and see Justice League. If you haven't seen Justice League, I'm going to apologize because that means I just kind of spoiled some stuff for you. But maybe you needed me to in order to get you off the fence to actually go see it. Sometimes that happens. I know it happens to me sometimes. I wasn't going to go see Ant-Man and until I watched, read a spoiler review. And I was like, you know what? This actually sounds like I'm going to enjoy it. And I did. I enjoyed it a lot. So I hope that maybe I can do that for you. If you haven't checked out Justice League, I'm telling you, it's not a perfect film, but it's a damn good time at the movies. It definitely is a damn good time at the movies, especially if you enjoy these characters. So that's it. Until next time, I'm Ken Carnage, and Carnage is right around the corner.